Welcome back to That's Church, where my sister and I visit different religions and interview its attendees that make their church a community. We are here with Vai and Caru, the founders of the Krishna temples here in Utah. If you missed part 1, be sure to go back and listen to episode 4. During part 2 of our enlightening interview with them, Caru explains a bit about his Christian upbringing and what brought him to Krishna. We think you'll enjoy hearing Caru's journey to conversion as he meets a guru within the Krishna consciousness that shares a seemingly straightforward concept that we are created in God's image and that God is a person.
My parents were very religious. If you lived in my father's house, you had to go to church every Sunday, which we did. And on Sundays, we'd have the big, famous Ivy League preachers like Harvey Price from Harvard or Reverend Coffin from Yale. So we had a really good rotation of speakers on Sunday. And yet none of it struck me. None of it convinced me. I was just very mild, very lukewarm on the whole subject of God or supreme being. Even when I went to University of Virginia for a couple of years, I lived in an Episcopalian-based house called Koinonia. And we were under the, priest would come once a week, and we were good friends with him and all like that. But I do remember that he smoked and he drank. And so probably other clerics had told me that God is a person. I mean, I'm not saying that was the first time I'd ever heard that statement in my life, that God is a person. But when the devotee told it to me, coming from the Eastern orientation, from the mouth of someone who did not smoke, did not drink, valued continence, and was a vegetarian, did not eat flesh, who was really a practicing devotee, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was life-changing. And the whole week afterwards, it was just bouncing around. God is a person, God is a person, God is a person. That meant to me that you do have a loving Father. He created you, he cares for you. And then there's certain things that in the light of that you should do. A faithful father has filial duty. A faithful son has filial duties to the father. So the first time in my life, I voluntarily accepted some responsibility for my behavior and be able to modify it accordingly. In other words, I agreed, probably for the first time in my life, to be a servant of my father, at least in theory.
That's beautiful. And we'd love to know kind of what some of those beliefs are with the Krishna consciousness that you're now part of. There are some forbidden things. We'd love to know a little bit more about the rituals that are done in the temple, specifically the red dot on the forehead and the fire and the sweet water. Also, how does it all relate to Hinduism?
The word Hindu is a misnomer, actually. When the invaders came into India through the northwest frontier, they crossed the Indus River. And so they said, okay, this is Hindustan. So we'll call the people Hindus, and we'll call the religion Hinduism. And then later the British came and they took that and they said, and we'll call the country India. None of these terms are in the ancient scriptures, which are written 6,000 years ago. The word Hinduism is kind of a religious term. What the real teaching is spiritual knowledge. And so a lot of the rituals which you talk about, they're not just ritualistic for their own sake, they're symbolic of service. So when we offer food or we offer flowers, we understand that this all came from God. We're offering it back to him, acknowledging his creator. And before we take it, we say, thank you. Please, you understand that you're the doer, you're the creator, you're the owner. So we offer the food for him to eat. Then we give it to everybody else. Then we eat ourselves, by which time we've probably lost our appetite and never get fat and miserable about too much food. But it helps you control your senses. And then we offer all the elements: earth, air, fire, water, ether. We offer air by fanning the Lord, water to bathe in, to drink, the incense, the fragrance. Krishna says in the Gita, I'm the fragrance of the earth, I'm the taste in water. So all the elements are offered back to him in the ceremony in a beautiful way to praise him, to glorify him.
And this is all done in a physical way, right? You have a statue of him. Is that right? And the offering goes before the statue. And
the statue is a form of the Lord. There are many, many forms. It's not there are many gods. There's only one God, but he has many different aspects. So many of the altars in India have a statue of Krishna. They call it a deity because the more you worship him, the more you feel the presence of him. And Krishna is the sweetest form of the Lord. There are many that have other deities, which are different aspects of Krishna, but the Krishna form is the most popular. He plays a flute and he dances. He's cute. It's a sweet form.
I noticed that he's been depicted as female as well.
God is male and female. Yeah, he's not male or female, he's both. So they depict the male and the female forms. There is one avatar. We don't say incarnation because when the Lord comes, he doesn't really take flesh. He comes in spiritual form, so it's an avatar, one who descends. So there's one avatar, which is a combination of the two. Krishna's shown to be very dark, and his queen's shown to be very fair and golden. And so there's an avatar who appeared only 500 years ago compared with Krishna's 5,000 years. And that avatar is a golden avatar. He has the hue of the female, but the gender of the male. Is very interesting. It's called Chaitanya. So there are different avatars. They manifest different characteristics, and we have several different ones on our altar.
And most of them are, the most of the ones I've seen have been depicted with blue skin. Is there symbolism there?
It's described that he's like the color of a monsoon cloud. It's interesting now with AI, people are starting to really do mystical presentations of Krishna because of the things that the computer can generate. But traditionally, arts just said, oh, the cloud is bluish, grayish, blackish, like a monsoon. So sometimes they'll paint him grayish color, sometimes bluish color, like that. But he is the color of a cloud.
Tying nature back into it. That's beautiful.
And so we can't imagine that just because we're, this kind of color that we are, that God can't be any color he wants to be and choose to do what he wants. And the form of Ram, he has a greenish hue. In other forms, he has a reddish hue. So it's mystical.
I love that you can kind of interpret Krishna to what inspires each person. It almost feels like I just wanted to share something really briefly that I've thought of recently in connection to our religion, where Joseph Smith saw God and Jesus Christ. I was thinking this recently that maybe he saw them because he's male and he related to them, and so that's what was shown to him spiritually through his spiritual eyes. Whereas when I've been visited from spirits, which are my grandparents who have passed away, most of the time it's my grandma. And is that because I relate to her in a feminine way and also just in a very personal way because she's my grandma? I've had dreams of her, and she and you can tell sometimes it feels like it's more than a dream. It feels more like a visit. And so I love the idea of Krishna being open in that way to each individual interpretation and each individual's spirituality.
I think
Would
that's
you guys
very
think that's
like God is unlimited.
right?
And the relationship with every living being is very personal and unlimitedly different. So everyone has a different relationship with God. And we come to that realization as we redevelop our relationship. So when you go back to God, eventually you'll know what that is. And he never forgets us. And he knows every one of us because he's in everyone's heart in the first place. So he knows you.
That's beautiful. A wonderful thought.
He doesn't do carbon copies. He made every soul unique, one of a kind, individual. And so even though there are And this is one slight difference between our theology and LDS, but I don't think it really makes any difference in the long run. LDS, as I understand it, believes that every soul has to come and take at least one mortal birth to learn lessons that you can only learn in a mortal body. We say that the souls who came here, that's true. The ones that are here, yeah, we had to come here, but not all souls were dumb enough to come here.
I like that.
I mean, what's the lesson? What's the lesson to learn? Just stay home. That's the lesson, right? Some people have to leave home in order to come back and appreciate it, right? So the information we have is that 3/4 of the souls never leave the spiritual world. They realize they're with God, and all they have to do is, as they awaken, we're not created, but we're awakened at some point in time, and they serve the Lord with their hands, and they spiritualize their senses, and they spiritualize their whole bodies, and they just stay there. It's only the 0.25% that have to learn the same lesson the hard way. Example is given that, say, a father has 4 sons. He tells them, don't touch fire. Well, 3 of them, just hearing, that's enough. That's all the experience they need. They don't have to touch fire. They just believe what their father tells them. But there'll always be one that thinks the father's holding something back, or the father has his own agenda, or the father's not telling the whole story. And so he will, rather than just save himself a lot of time and trouble by trusting the father, he will put his finger into the fire. Now, once he's done that, then he's as good as the other 3. He's learned the same lesson, but he's learned it the hard way. So we don't believe that every soul comes here. We believe that only 1/4 of the soul comes here, but they do come for that same reason, that we at least have to learn lessons that we could only learn by coming here and being apart from God.
I really like that thought. I think that is so cool.
I would touch the fire. I hate to say it.
And I think I definitely need it.
We have, otherwise we wouldn't be here.
That's true.
Yeah, true. It feels very similar to the Adam and Eve story too, which is, again, not to make it tie it back into Christianity, but that's the base that I have to go off of in my life.
Yeah.
But that's a very interesting connection between those 2 stories. I love that. And I do think that there is something in the learning of those things, and the getting burnt. Sometimes we have to get burnt to learn and to grow. So
another example is given that in the morning, sometimes there's clouds, and on some days, on a summer day, there's clouds in the morning, and on other days there's no clouds. And then in the afternoon, both days the afternoon ends up being cloudless. But one day started with being cloudless, and it was cloudless all day. The other day started with it being cloudy in the morning, but then the clouds dissipated and it was cloudless in the afternoon. So it doesn't matter. You see, we all are meant to come to the same point. It's just that some of us have to do it the long, hard way. That's all. But once the sky is clear, it's clear. It doesn't matter what the background or what the history was.
Right. When it's clear, it's clear.
It makes
and that's why God is so forgiving. He's always forgiving, because no matter how far off track or how deep we become distance from him and apart from him, he knows of what we're capable. He knows the divine nature of our origins. He never cuts us off. He never leaves us. He never disowns us. He's always within the heart, and he's always there, ready to pick up on any hint that we give him, that we're ready to learn from him and walk in the light of his knowledge.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
That's beautiful. I think it's similar to what we believe and a little bit different. One of the things that we were surprised to find so similar to ours, a word of wisdom type advice or covenant or commandment.
One of them is chastity, or we say the term we use is no illicit sex. So control your desire for sense gratification, and and be honest, get married, have children, have a responsible relationship. That marriage can be very, very beneficial, not just to yourselves, but to society in general, and help other people, help your children.
Mm-hmm.
And then no intoxication. That destroys your consciousness. If you want to do meditation, think of God. You can't if your mind's disturbed. So that alcohol, drugs, even coffee and tea, we follow those rules of not disturbing our consciousness. No intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, which includes not just going to Las Vegas and Wendover, but it means you don't get in the stock exchange. You don't try and get rich quick. You just live simple, honest life. And then the last one, of course, is no violence. Don't kill anything. No meat eating. We don't eat meat, fish, eggs. I believe actually that that's there in the Doctrine of the Covenants. It says, if most of the LDS I ask, they say eat meat sparingly. But I think that's the end of the sentence. I think it says something like, it's pleasing to me that you don't eat meat except in times of famine, and then sparingly. So for the most part, controlling meat eating is essential. At least everyone should cut back to save the earth. That would, to save the consequence, the karma involved. So that's very important. So those are the 4 negatives. And then the positive is worship, meditation, service. Do those things as an offering to God.
You wanted a rap? You want the karma rap?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Hear
Yeah.
it.
Okay. We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmosphere with sunshine or with shade. The tissue of the life to be we weave in colors all our own. In the field of destiny, we reap where we have sown. Karma is action and reaction. You sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. Law of cause and effect ensures the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done will circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to live and die, continue to suffer and cry. As the aroma follows the flowers, heat pursues the fire, your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Karma will decide how you'll be reborn, comely or scorned, higher, humiliated, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, long or short-lived, animal or human, sheltered or adrift. Karma is what makes the world go round, is cause and effect right down there on the ground for those going over and around, up and down, bound by their deeds, drowned by their needs. Is there any purpose to our life on earth? Do we just die and continually take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Well, yeah, because you're not the flesh, you're not the mind, eternal spirit, designed in the image of Almighty Divine, assigned to a service sublime, attracted by unselfish action, serving the Lord with dispassion, acting only for his satisfaction. Devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the Dharma, pleasing the Lord, fashioned by his hand, act according to his plan, and never, ever, ever come back to this material world again. We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmosphere with sunshine or with shade. And then this is the second part, which has to do with meat eating specifically. We are the living graves of murdered beasts, slaughtered to satisfy our appetites. We never pause to wonder at our feasts if animals like humans have rights. We pray on Sundays when we have light to guide our footsteps on the path we tread. We're sick of war, we don't want to fight, and yet we gorge ourselves on the dead. Like carrion crow, we live and feed on meat, never considering the pain and suffering we cause. If thus we treat defenseless animals for sport or gain, how can we hope to attain the peace we say we are so anxious for? We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmosphere with sunshine or with shade. The tissue of life to be we weave in colors all our own. In the field of destiny, we reap where we have sown.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And
Powerful.
That's amazing.
and
Oh
you
my
made,
gosh,
you
that is
made that up,
incredible.
and you have many, right?
16.
Oh
No,
my
actually,
gosh.
I have 17 now. I wrote another one last week.
Wow. And I don't know how you can remember and just pull them out like that. That's amazing.
I know you're not interested in being famous, but you could be. You could be a famous rapper, just so you know.
That is so awesome. And
Rapper in the world.
Yes.
that is
No, the
awesome.
hippest rapper. Yes.
Yes.
The most distinguished rapper, you know?
We every year we go to the governor's mansion for Diwali, the festival lights. They do a festival there. So last year they always ask him to speak, give some talk. So
cool.
last year they said, I'll give you a talk, and they're expecting the usual sort of sermon and everything.
Homilies.
He comes up with a rap. He starts rapping at the governor's mansion to 100 people there, all politicians and, movers and shakers of the society. And everyone's just completely bewildered, but they got into it. They enjoyed it.
They did the chorus. I got them to do the
Amazing.
chorus.
Oh my gosh. You are
That
the
is
best public
awesome.
speaker. You are so good with people. That is
Well,
incredible.
and you are your own mover. You are movers and shakers in your own rights for sure as well.
Mhm.
So you
Yes.
probably fit right in.
Yes.
Our podcast is called That's Church. And we'd love to know what your That's Church moment is outside of your church walls. Like what do you do outside of your regular rituals and things that kind of
Yes.
rejuvenate your souls and helps you to find solace?
For myself, it's the whole thing of you know, when I give a talk, I'm listening more intently than anybody. Nobody's listening because I have to make sure the right word comes after the other. I have to use the right emphasis. I have to use the right gestures in order to make the maximum difference in the lives of the audience. And so because I'm paying attention to all those moving parts, there's no one who's more in the moment than me. And I have to admit, there's probably not anybody who needs it more than me too. That might be, why I do what I do. And so, and then the thing is, we're always called upon to communicate. You ask, what do you do outside of the church? Well, we don't just communicate on Sunday. We don't just communicate during a podcast. It's called That's Church. I did one with Steve Perry at BYU called In Good Faith. I did a show with him, and those are obviously under the banner of religiosity. But I used to run marathons, and we'd be, I used to go down with the Spanish Fork Running Club every Saturday morning, and 10 minutes after we go on our 20-mile run, they say, and this, we start in the darkness, and then the sun starts peeping over the horizon. They all say, Caru, chant the prayer for the sun. And we all stop and they all fold their hands and I go, Yak Chak Chure says Savita Sakalam Rajagana Shirama, and communication is universal and it's not bounded by time or space. And so, I'm just delighted to be the inheritor of this knowledge, this antique knowledge coming down for thousands of years, and being especially blessed by having met my spiritual master. And so every encounter, every human encounter, to the degree that the person is open and able to accept it, I'm gonna pour something into them. That's my church.
I like to internalize. Before I was a devotee, I read a book, Pray Without Ceasing. The prophet, a Russian fellow who ends up in the steppes of Russia, having lost everything, and he finds what's in their tradition a starets, or a guru, a spiritual master, who gives him that instructions, pray without ceasing. And it's in the Bible, and it's certainly in our tradition. And it's a state of consciousness. So I'm doing a lot of things with a lot of people all the time. And sometimes I'm thinking, why do I have to be here brushing these llamas? Or why am I digging this garden? I know it's for Krishna. But the way I'm able to do all those things is because in my consciousness, in my mind, I'm actually chanting the holy names of the Lord. I'm connecting with Krishna, knowing that this is his energy, this is my service to him, and you become joyful. So in the Christian tradition, they have different prayers. I think the Jesus prayer is what mostly they use. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on us. But in our tradition, the prayer we use mostly is the names of God. So that's what Hare, Krishna, and Rama is. It's three names of God. So when we chant that mantra, we're glorifying God and we're asking him to protect us. There's so many things in it. It's a prayer and it's a praise. So very often I'll find myself driving down the road and I'm chanting in the heart and chanting in the mind. even in the presence of other people. Even when I'm discussing business, I'm still chanting because I'm asking the help of the Lord. So that's my system. I'm not a great communicator, but I'm trying to communicate with Krishna with my heart.
You are a great communicator.
I agree. I've seen you in action, and you're definitely a great communicator. But also, it sounds like you're very spiritual and you can be inward, when you need to be in
Well, I'm
connect.
an artist, and I like to do that. So that's how I'm able to paint, is I try to see the Lord inside. And when I was at university in London, I was at art school. I really lost track of everything. People were painting Coke cans and dots and dashes, Arpad and Papad, and it was just so mundane. And I said, what is this all about? It's useless. And so I kind of quit art after the university. But then when I became a devotee, then I saw, as True talked about the personality, he realized the personality of God. I also realized that. And so when I see Krishna, how beautiful he is, now I want to paint him. So now I have something to paint, some motivation for my art.
Wow.
So I love painting pictures of Krishna. They're all over the temples. I'm doing some big murals for the paintings in Salt Lake. The ones on the walls in Salt Lake are also mine.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I have to go back now and really pay attention.
Yeah. I did notice
incredible.
some in the Krishna temple, and they were beautiful. And as someone who also loves to create and paint, like, it just is so inspiring to hear the story of how you drew the temple, and that ended up, like, your drawing ended up coming to fruition. That is like,
Yes.
I just sat with that for a minute. Like, that must have been such an incredible moment for you, and such a huge achievement.
You see it from within. It's there on the paper. You don't know where it came from. And then suddenly it materializes and it's just natural. It was already there.
We are in the shadow of the dream mind. I don't know if you've ever heard of the dream mind, but a visionary, a Mormon bishop named John Coyle, who had envisioned accurately some of the silver mines down in the Eureka area. He did have a good track record of his visions coming true. So he saw that in the mountain just to the east of us here, that there was a vast reservoir of gold. And to this day, the stockholders of the mountain meet at the BFW Hall once a year to discuss the status of things. And many people followed him, and many people mined that until it became flooded with water, at which time he said, when the world really needs this gold, when the economic status of the world, hits bottom, then the water will disappear and you'll find the gold. So everything's on hold. And he had a little house, he had a little cottage up there, which you can see from our temple. And he has said, and I didn't make this up, I actually heard this from 2 or 3 different local sources who heard it from their grandfather, who heard it from that he says porch one day and he looked out and he pointed to this hill and he said there'll be a great temple on that hill one day. He didn't say it would be an LDS temple, he just said it'd be a great temple. And so the reason I mention that is because he had no investiture in our religion and our missionary work. He's a totally dispassionate third party, but he saw what God already had put into place since the beginning of time. He saw that, and we just came along and just made it visible to physical eyes. But it was there by God's arrangement, and we didn't build it. We just, like, brick by brick, we made it manifest in physical reality.
That's
and she
amazing.
was the artist who took that and ran with it.
You guys should be so proud.
Works through you and through this whole process. That is
incredible. And just that you guys were aware enough to be open to that inspiration is truly incredible.
That's our only credit, that we let God take us by the back of the neck and walk us through the whole thing.
A little puppeteer.
He's got all the plans. He's figured it out. It's already done. We just try not to get in the way.
Thanks for joining us on That's Church. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at That's Church Podcast for more updates, insights, and a glimpse into the diverse spiritual tapestry of Utah.
Let's keep the conversation going, because we believe that gaining knowledge of other religions does not diminish our own faith, but can instead enrich our spirituality.
The tissue of the life to be we weave in colors all our own. In the field of destiny, we reap where we have sown. Karma is action and reaction. You sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. Law of cause and effect ensures the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done will circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to live and die, continue to suffer and cry. As the aroma follows the flower, as heat pursues the fire, your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Karma will decide how you'll be reborn, comely or scorned, high or humiliated, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, long or short-lived, animal or human, sheltered or adrift. Karma is what makes the world go round, is cause and effect right down there on the ground for those going over and around, up and down, bound by their deeds, drowned by their needs. Is there any purpose to our life on earth? Do we just die and continue to take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Well, yeah, because you're not the flesh, you're not the mind, eternal spirit, designed in the image of Almighty Divine, assigned to a service sublime, attracted by unselfish action, serving the Lord with dispassion, acting only for His satisfaction. Devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the Dharma, pleasing the Lord, fashioned by His hand, act according to His plan, and never, ever, ever come back to this material world again. We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmosphere with sunshine over shade. And then this is the second part, which has to do with meat eating specifically. We are the living graves of murdered beasts, slaughtered to satisfy our appetites. We never pause to wonder at our feasts if animals like humans have rights. We pray on Sundays when we have light to guide our footsteps on the path we tread. We're sick of war, we don't want to fight, and yet we gorge ourselves on the dead. Like carrion crow, we live and feed on meat, never considering the pain and suffering we cause. If thus we treat defenseless animals for sport or gain, how can we hope to attain the peace we say we are so anxious for? We shape ourselves the joys and fears of which the coming life is made, and fill our future's atmosphere with sunshine over shade. The tissue of life to be we weave in colors all our own. In the field of destiny, we reap where we have sown.